Welcome to today's webinar on security testing and vulnerability assessment. Jake, I might start with you. In your opinion, what has the evolution of the vulnerability management market been? Well, if you could talk through maybe what you've seen over the course of the last few years and where you feel this is going.
The main takeaway that I've seen in the market has been an increase in customer knowledge of this is something that we need to take more seriously as a part of our security program. And secondly, from the vendor side of the house, we've seen a lot more investment in tools to kind of broaden, I'd say, the tool belt, right? So originally you'd see just a lot of scanning tools out in the market that would just go, you run your cursory scan, you get a report, and that's it. However, as time has progressed, we've seen a lot more investment in ongoing vulnerability management, where you look at your trending over time, which I think is much more impactful. And the second thing that I've seen in the vulnerability management market has been an increase in the proliferation of tools to look at different kinds of IT, because there's been such a sprawl in different types of places where attackers can get in.
Are organizations starting to effectively bring the OT and the ICS under this umbrella of their security hardening, or is that still a pipe dream? Where's that going?
At the moment, this is definitely IoT and cloud environment are taking into the consideration as a high risk. In past years, definitely it was pushed behind. Definitely, organization focused only or mostly on a web application or internal structure of or external structure of their network and their system. But during the time, the landscape changes.
So Jake, I mean, you guys have thousands of customers. Are you seeing companies? I mean, Target happened back in 2012, right? It's over 10 years ago. Are you seeing companies, of the thousands of companies that you service with your technology, actually investing and I would say more than investing, but effectively implementing technology on the OT and the ICS side of the house?
I think that a lot of organizations are just starting to figure out, oh, this is vulnerability management and scanning and inventory of our attack surface is something that we need to spend more time and effort on. And they're just starting to get around to that. Looking at more advanced things like building automation and operational technology, they're still getting there. It's not there yet. I get a lot of inquiries that are like, hey, we're just exploring this, but we're not quite there yet. And we want to understand how you actually interact with these systems. I think a part of this recently has been, if you roll back the clock just 3 years, right? A lot of these operational technology networks were air-gapped. None of them ever talked to the internet. None of them were ever connected. Yes. And everybody stopped thinking about it. They said, well, it's air-gapped. I don't have to think about it anymore. COVID happened. Now it's, well, we need to remotely manage these operational technology networks because nobody can go to the site. Nobody can go to the factory floor or to the plant, right? And unfortunately, that means that they're all now exposed to the internet, and nobody has done their due diligence to actually secure these networks. So now it's, well, we left that as is because we never rolled it back to being air-gapped. So how do we protect it now? And now people are starting to ask that question because they have, they continue to have their operational networks facing the internet.
How easy is it to hack into these PLCs or these different technologies that sit out there versus, hacking into an outdated version of a Windows operating system?
Relatively easy, Ronan. Once you have a footprint into internal network, which is controlled and connected to the IoT devices, OT devices, it's relatively quickly because these devices, they don't update so easily. So even programmers, ICS programmers, they having a lack of security competences. So they don't know how to program device to prevent from the different security issues which we might discover. So from the attacking surface perspective, definitely this is low-hanging fruit, and the business impact is huge. Once we can stop operational of the assembly line or the pipeline, the business impact is incredible. So definitely, this is something which all organization should consider as very important from the business perspective and from the security maturity perspective as well.
Jake, talk to me about vulnerabilities. Talk to me a little bit about and what you're seeing in relation to how your technology and organizations are helping to deal with this prolific increase in the number of CVs that are coming, because you could almost argue it's getting to a stage where it's becoming unmanageable, right? If you haven't got a proper program of works in place.
But when I first started in the industry, you looked at a data center, and a data center was basically it, right? It's like, okay, we've got endpoints, we've got, some switches, we've got a firewall, maybe we've got, our servers and some of our other networking odds and ends, printers, stuff like that. But the network was fairly simple, right? And everything lived in your nice locked data center. You had, you had to worry about like firmware or like remote monitoring vulnerabilities and stuff like that. It wasn't difficult to wrap your arms around all of those IT devices and protect them. Now your IT is everywhere, right? You've got the cloud. We've been talking about operational technology, right? You have a proliferation of all sorts of new endpoints, not just stuff that's running a standard, thick operating system. You've got tablets, phones, you've got all sorts of software sprawl. It's just everywhere now. And so as a result, we're seeing so many more vulnerabilities because there are so many more platforms that businesses need to use to be operational today versus 10, 15 years ago. So absolutely, there's a whole bunch of sprawl there. And on top of that, attackers are working diligently every day to find these new things, because now that software is everywhere, well, great, there's a million new ways for me to break inside of a network, right?
Can you talk us through the risks and the approach that you take from an offensive security perspective when you're conducting M&A diligence for clients?
Of course, this has become a very attractive component of our offensive security service suite. The pre-acquisition process or post-acquisition testing process to check what's the current security posture of our organization, how it's aligned with the merger security processes and cybersecurity culture within bigger organization. It's crucial. We've come out several times this year highlighting the critical approaches, the critical behaviors of companies usage, the unpatched library software usage. We highlighted and pointed out the lack of patching strategy within the organization, the holes in the software cyber security software life cycle development, and these type of issues and problems within the emerging organization is highlighted in our security approach. But this is one thing. The other thing is educate. When we come across the organization with lack of processes or lack of culture within the organization, we always educate. Okay, you have to implement several steps to fulfill these gaps. You have to implement the vulnerability assessment, regular pen testing assessment, or any other security metrics which might help you to raise the bar and raise the cybersecurity culture within the organization.
I mean, we've had some really interesting zero-day vulnerabilities over the last few years, and I'm sure you guys have it. I know we have a ton of war stories when it comes to these and the panic that it creates. Can you maybe share some perspectives or any interesting stories you might or might not have that you can disclose to us?
Yeah, what I would tell you is that when a zero day comes out, it's chaos, right? We immediately jump on it and we start working on trying to make sure that our tools can see what these O-days are to begin with, right? So I think the most recent vulnerability of this that got really everybody going was the MoveIt vulnerability that was in that management software suite, because of how easy it was to exploit and how easy it was to parlay it into other attacks, right? Much to kind of Chris's point of, well, I get in the printer, I can do a little privilege escalation and then move on from there, or capture the creds out of the printer. Same kind of idea with MoveIt, right? It's very easy to parlay that into a full-blown attack on an organization. So, we on our side, we're very diligent about that. We work hard to quickly get a plugin database ready to go for the vulnerability, get it out to our software so that way people can immediately begin scanning for it and patch for it. So we're really diligent on that. And I think, there are two sides to every coin. So while, if you have a process, if you have some of our tools in place, it lowers a lot of stress. And we've talked to plenty of partners who, because they have a process in place, because they're using our tool, it's a low, 0 days are not the stress they used to be, because it gets published. They give us a phone call. They say, can you guys see this? We say, yep, we can see it. Run your scans. They scan, they see it. They can immediately take systems offline same day until a patch is published. Or if a patch is available from a vendor, they get the patch installed, done, right? Their lives are very easy. Nobody is having a heart attack. Nobody's freaking out about anything. It's a very low stress environment. But like, a lot of other companies are not having that experience because they're not actively scanning. They don't have a game plan in place. They don't have a technology partner or a managed service provider partner who can conduct the scan for them, give them a phone call and say, you guys are all good, or here are 5 IPs you should take offline immediately. Instead, it's an O-Day gets launched. They're ignorant to it completely. Time goes on, an attacker probes it. Chris is out there probing networks, looking for new systems to get into. And it's very easy when you have these high priority items like this, because it's a cakewalk.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the type of innovation that we're building and how that's helping, given the disparate nature of tools which could be in our client sites?
Of course. As you know, every platform, every tool has some pros and cons. So we utilize our knowledge from offensive security perspective. We building together Threat Hub, which is a platform of the orchestration and management of this tools information which our tooling are provided. At the top of it, we are adding our offensive security experience, building the suite of tools and outputs which are tailored to the company needs. So sometimes the time between detection of release, the new vulnerabilities, and building rules how to detect them, it's crucial. So different platforms, different tools are using are better or worse in terms of updating the plugins, procedures, etc. So we are taking the best of the best. We are adding the flavor of our offensive security experience and our engineering experience, giving the platform which is possibly one of the most accurate right now in the market. Our process and our approach is to help the client to get better maturity of the cybersecurity, better understanding of the risk, potential business impact, and to help client to prioritize actions to close the doors, to strengthen their security posture. And this process is not that difficult as you can imagine.
Where do you see the opportunities for Tenable in the AI space?
From our perspective, what we're doing inside Tenable to leverage AI has been to offer more natural language queries, right? And that's something you're going to see coming to our product in the coming weeks and months. Will be the ability to go in and ask, well, what vulnerabilities do I have that are the worst, right? And then have AI be able to dig that stuff up and give you a natural language response. Because a lot of the times it's difficult to go hunt these things down, and AI can be helpful in that regard, right? In terms of, hey, I want to be able to ask something like I could ask anybody on the street and then actually get a competent response back that I understand. So that's one of the things we're working on, is making this a lot more digestible and easy to use, right? What are bad guys doing? One of the things that we're seeing is because AI is trainable, we're seeing attackers train AI to accept malicious code that has their exploits built inside of it. And then when you ask ChatGPT to make something for you, you then receive code that already has malware baked right into it, right? So from our perspective, that's an opportunity for us to be able to say, look, we have tools that can scan infrastructure as code and scan stuff like this and look for potential vulnerabilities that are baked into this code that you copy and paste it off of ChatGPT or another AI solution, to make sure that you're not accidentally copying malicious code directly into your organization.
On that note, Jake, Chris, thank you for sharing your perspectives on the vulnerability and security testing arena. So, thank you so much and have a great day.